Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. It's called Find Your Voice, Save Your Life. And this is volume 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. You guys, this book is the 4th volume in a series by Diana Leader. I want to say a huge thank you to Diana Leader and Scott Holmes for taking this project on and gathering our stellar author cast of all men this time, the first collaboration of all male voices. Super exciting to me for so many reasons. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today with the authors that I have with me in this Zoom room, including James Kawainui, and he is a native Hawaiian healer whose passion is to help people overcome trauma and the debilitating mindsets and patterns that prevent them from living more positive, productive, and pain-free lives. I also have Shervin Hojat with me. He uses several modalities to help people reevaluate their lives, tend to their garden within, and live freely in the moment. And Joseph Uveges is a Colorado Springs-based singer-songwriter, suicide survivor, and Catholic mystic wanderer. That is a cool thing for a bio, Joe. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am so excited to have this conversation today. So, all right, James, you're going to start the party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
First of all, I just want to thank Scott, because when he called me last year and he asked me to do this, I said yes, and I didn't even know what I was getting into at that point. But I just said, I know that this needs to happen, because this is something that is really passionate of mine, is that men start talking about where they are inside of their lives. So in that way, I'm grateful for that opportunity, and Diana, because I've known her for quite a while as well. So just want to throw that out there first. My chapter is chapter 3. It's called Redefining Harold. And it was about, everything's about healing and how we get through our lives and how we start to see the deeper parts of who we are and let go of, the stories that we carry. And so this was about my story, and it was about how I was raised. Harold's my stepfather, by the way, and he was an angry man. And so he made everybody around him not feel good about who they were. And he was very methodical about making sure that he did everything in his power to take my power away. I think that's what my chapter was about. And so this was about my reckoning, about my understanding that, about looking at that and going, well, wait a minute, how do I really want to live my life? And in that process, there were lots of things that happened, because I came into understanding my lineage. I came into understanding what I was supposed to do to help people, and that healing, I guess you could say, was changing the course of my life. So, and I wanted to share that with people, because I think we all get lost inside those stories, and I think in everybody's story, because even with Shervin and even with Joseph and the other authors here, there was this place of we land inside of this deep, dark place. And then do we stay there, or do we move ahead or past that? And I think of all the stories that I've read, it's about how we move past that. And I think somebody said that it's not the wounds that we talk about, it's the scars, because the scars talk about our healing, right? So, and then when I went back and I read my story again, that's what I realized we were talking about. So that,
the thing that I think excited about the most is you're talking about something where you took some pretty deep pain and you transformed that into purpose. Is really what you did. You looked at that time, that story, what happened to you, and it ended up being an opportunity. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, and I talked about that in the chapter because it was like because of how I was raised, there were things that happened and skills that I developed really early, because they were survival skills, and that was my empathy. In other words, being able to feel other people. I had to know where my stepfather was in his process, and I got so good at it, I could read him before he even got home, and what that transpired to is in some ways one of my superpowers, because that's how I work with people, is being able to feel and understand where they are and be able to dial into that and then talk to them about where they are. And people tell me all the time, I say, tell me about this. I asked a woman yesterday, tell me about this thing in your left shoulder. And she said, oh, I just had a tumor removed, but there was other things that were happening there. And that's that empathic place that allows us to reach inside of that. And then the other piece that I think that was the biggest gift of that was learning compassion. So because of what happened to me, I really understand what other people go through, and it gives me the space to be able to step into this beautiful crucible, I guess you could say, of holding that truth and creating that kind of trust.
Yeah, James, it's been such an honor to be with you on this journey of the books that you've been in with Brave Healer. You've been here before this amazing project.
7 books with you, Laura.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't going to ask the number. That means I'm just going to tell you need to write your own book at this point, right? So
I am.
But no, I just wanted to thank you once again for walking the walk and then being able to express it in a way that other people can really understand what's possible, part of the mission here. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So Shervin, you are up next. Tell us a little bit about your chapter.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, I'm very pleased to be here in this interview. Thank you very much. I wrote chapter 16, which is the title is Embracing the Now, Releasing the Shoulds to Realize Unlimited Possibility. And this chapter that I wrote is about knowing myself, is letting go all the shoulds and all the past trauma and belief that I had from childhood, and actually being a friend to myself, and being vulnerable by expressing the wants and needs I have. And at the final analysis also goes back to being in the moment and enjoying the simplest thing in life, and really appreciating that. That is what the chapter talks about. And actually, that's my experience. Just being in the moment and really savoring is like having every moment is like having a delicious dessert, making the best out of it. And that's what I attempt to do these days.
I love that. That is a foundational practice that I think all of my healer friends have embraced. I hadn't really thought about every moment like dessert before today, though, but I think I will for now. I like chocolate a lot.
I think that's
awesome. Shervin, you said something that is also resonating with me, moving from a childhood where I learned what I was supposed to and should do. Yes. And the shoulds. And then there was a time that happened a bit later, more into my adulthood, where I kind of woke up to the question, hey, how do I know I should do anything? Who is telling me these things? Who have made up all the rules? How was that for you?
Well, for me was as I wrote in a chapter. I mean, I had several beliefs that I'm not good at, for example, painting. I'm not good at writing, and I really didn't like any of those when I was in high school and so forth. And later on, when I was around my 40s and 50s, I just said, why? I mean, I just challenged that. and uh, actually I proved to myself I can do it. I might not be the best perhaps painter or writer, but I can do it and I can enjoy it. And that was really something that opened my eyes. And I do write. I write blog, even though I never thought, when I was, somebody would have told me you're going to be writing, I would have never thought that was possible for me. I've just said no way. But actually I have surprised myself in a sense. I don't trust some of my belief. I just said, could it be true? Is it true? This is certain belief. So I really always, even now, I surprise myself with some of the beliefs or assumption I have. So this really is like a game of discovery, and just figure out where is the limit that things we can do or we can challenge.
I think you're talking about something so exciting. This topic is such a favorite of mine. When you start to question everything, that's when your whole life can change for the better. All of your beliefs, everything you've been taught is real, or what you consider your reality currently, like how that could be different. This could change everything.
Yes, and even the certain assumptions we make about people. Okay, this person said something or did something. I'm assuming that's why they're doing it. Even that, you get surprised by how we put it in the small boxes, and then we realize, oh my God, this wasn't the reality. It's one possibility, but cannot be the thing that we think for sure it is. So it really opens up our relationship, even than being just more or less free, rather than put ourselves in a box. Okay, this is happening and I have to react this way. No, that's not it. That's not it. True. We can be free and just move with whatever is happening without trying to put them in a box.
Thank you, Shervin. You guys are hearing, I'm talking to our viewers now, you're hearing these moments where you might wake up to something that you might wake up to the fact that you've been in a habitual, cyclical thought and belief process, maybe your entire life, which can sound a little like a bummer, but really this is an opportunity to wake up to that and start to question. And like I said, everything can change from there. You all, I thank you so much for not just for saying yes to this book, for being brave about it and offering your stories, your vulnerable stories, the stories that are going to help people nod their head and go, ooh, okay, you've now given me permission to go on my journey. I thank all of you for that. Joseph, how about you? Tell us about your chapter.
So my chapter is chapter 17. It's called One Simple Voice, Teachings from a Shattered Heart. And my story is really about the suicide of my son, Andrew, which happened 6 years ago, and 6 years and 2 months ago. I probably could give you the days. I used to keep track of the days, but I've pushed past that a little bit now. Obviously, I mean, everybody in this book, all the people in this book have suffered, and I don't know that any one suffering is necessarily any worse than another. This is a bad one, and it has taken me on a journey that I didn't really want to take. But that's the way life is. That's the way, God or the universe or, whoever you perceive, your higher power to be. This is how our lives are pushed forward. And, the first couple of years, is obviously extraordinarily difficult. At about the 2-year mark, I heard an extraordinary story about another woman, a local woman who is actually also a mystic, and who had suffered for 17 years with an undiagnosed illness. And I reached out to her, and the chapter talks about this as well. But what it's done is it's taken me on a journey, and I jokingly describe it, as kind of this Catholic mystic journey. And in a sense, my Catholicism has kind of been ruptured, which I think is maybe what Shervin was just talking about too, and James, and talking about your father. The vessel that holds us in our younger years, at some point there is no vessel large enough to carry our divinity, and every human being carries this, and so my chapter talks about kind of the aftermath of moving through this process, and I journal daily with God or Jesus, and it's been an extraordinary healing process. And I can actually say at this point that I'm grateful to my son for the journey that he's taken me on. And he was a beautiful soul, and it's opened some things up in me that I don't think I ever would have experienced without this event. I'm a singer-songwriter, so that's been a big part of it. I'm an artist, and there's a fair amount of ego that kind of gets pulled into that lifestyle. And you're kind of always searching for the next great concert, the next level of fame, the next album to come out, the next accolade, the movie, the movie credit, whatever it may be. And I ended up losing, I kind of lost touch with what art was for me, what it really was. And this shattering that happened as a result of this suicide kind of refocused me, and it's taken me back into a place where I'm excited again, about that element of my life. So
Listening to you, and I wonder what incredible things happened on your journey to allow you to be in this place today and be able to say some of those things. I know, yeah, go for it.
yeah, well, I mean, the big question and I belong to a parent suicide survivors Facebook group, and there's more than 25,000 people in my group now, all around the country, actually all around the world. And one of the things that I see over and over again in this group is this: the first few years, you're so shattered by the event, you're just literally clawing your way through the day. At some point, you have to. And I never consider myself a victim. I'm not sure. I know that other people do. There's a lot of people who have suffered suicide, who survived suicides, who end up trying to blame someone. So it's my kid's wife who was the extraordinary bitch. Who just couldn't ever let him be who he needed to be, or the employee or the boss who treated a person so poorly, and it pushed them over the edge. But I never felt that with my son. I had this intuition right off the bat, and my wife did too, that there was something bigger happening. We didn't understand what it was, but we knew that we were being thrust into a journey that we had to take. And the honoring of my son's life meant going deeply into this process without blaming anyone. And, at the beginning, you have to blame yourself, because it was my job as a parent to protect this kid. And, we didn't somehow. We missed something. But also, at some point, you have to accept that, and this was part of the healing, Laura, that you just were asking me about. In my journaling protocol, the very first question I asked God was, am I responsible for my son's death? Because that's the question that every parent is carrying. And the answer was so extraordinarily tender and extraordinarily non-judgmental, I guess, that it shocked me. And it came in disjointed phrases. And basically the teaching was this: no one is responsible for the actions of another. Yes, I may have made mistakes, it's true. But my son, is God's child as well, as are we all. And he's doing his own, he came here for a reason. He's done extraordinary work. And I can let go of this because he's okay. He's okay. And this is the truth. It's, at some point, this is the truth that we're all working towards. And I love this book because everybody in this book is bringing an extraordinary suffering to healing. And that healing, the inner work that we do, translates out into the world in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. I've seen miracles, so many miracles in the last 4 years since I started this work. And maybe some of us consider miracles to be coincidences. Back when I was stuck in my head and ego, right? Just, oh, it's just a coincidence. Oh, that's just, something that happened. I'm convinced that every day all of us are immersed in miracles that our mind is trying to discount as just something else.
I am with you. I would have bet the guys would nod to that too. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This
Yeah,
is
we have to, not we have to, when I say we have to, it's not have to, it's the opportunity to be able to see and witness those as they show up in our lives,
yeah.
and being that space of being open to those and realizing that. And yeah, and then this, not discounting the mind, but watching the mind want to go through because it needs logic in order to explain the miracle, and going, no, we don't. Just, can I just allow that to happen for myself?
Yeah.
That's what mystery is, right?
Yes.
It's stepping out of this
Yeah.
and going into the actual lived experience of our lives.
The great
Exactly.
mystery for sure. Okay, this is great because I want to ask you all this next question, and it's going to tie into some of the things you're already talking about. Shervin, I'm going to start with you for this one. What does it even mean to you to be a transcendent man?
Transcendent man to me is becoming aware of what's holding me back and changing it and making it for better. And that's what it really means. It means someone who's more awareness than before, and making things better for myself and people around me. That's really what it means. It sounds really, I believe anybody can get that title if they're if actually they become some have some self-knowledge and work toward it. And it's this work is not done. I don't consider it done. Is every day I need to be aware. Sometimes I fall down, I get up and move forward. And so this is just life, like anything else. We realize, we adjust and move forward to the best. Basically, the way I look at it, the question is, what can I do the best today at this moment? That's what I do. I try not to do anything fancier than that. Just say, what is the best I can do now? Because that's the only thing I have control over.
Yes, I love that. Awareness is everything. With awareness, we get choices.
Yes.
So if we're practicing that in the moment, then really that's everything to me. I love that, Shervin. Thank you. Joseph, what do you want to add to this? What does being a transcendent man mean to you? Big question.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because if this book opportunity actually came to me 4 or 5 months before I refused it the first time. My friend Amy sent it to me.
Really? You didn't tell me that.
I did. I refused it. The timing was off for me, and when it was pushed out the next 4 months, it felt completely different to me, completely right. And I think that because the journey has its own time, and you can't, I wasn't ready 4 months earlier. And for me, transcendency has happened in unexpected, incremental ways. And how it's manifesting in my life is that as I'm being changed, and you're right, Shervin, it's a day-to-day process. You're absolutely right. As I'm changed daily by these gentle teachings, my own inner transformation affects the people around me. I mean, I can tell you, my wife, on the third day that I started this journaling protocol 4.5 years ago now, my wife said, because we're suffering, we're suffering, we're a little under 2 years into the process, and she turned to me and said, "Joe, what are you doing? You're different." And I said, I started this journaling protocol that this woman has taught me. And she said, "Well, whatever it is, you feel completely different to me in the last couple days." And that for me was an affirmation that something was happening, that the suffering has a purpose, that we're moving forward. And you're right, movement, daily movement incremental movement is what it's about, and not being stuck. And in order to do that, I have to have a little space in my life. I have to have this space to kind of do this work. And I've been pretty good about creating it, although today I have somebody working in my front yard and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they going to knock this tree down or whatever? So anyway, that's what transformation has been for me.
It must be gardening day. I have them here too today. So yeah. Thank you for that so much. You must know by now that I am a heavy journaling fan. The therapeutic, effects of a journaling protocol are real and profound. Really, they have been for me. I have gone so far as to say that my writing is my meditation. It's my channel. It's my inquiry. It's my discovery. And so it's I'm a fan. I could talk about that all day long. James, what do you want to add to this? What does being a transcendent man mean to you?
It's funny. I was thinking about that as Shervin and Joe were talking, and it reminded me of something that I do every morning in my getting ready for the day. And as I'm talking to my team, I call them the team, and thanking my ancestors for the connection that I have with them, one of the things that I say is, help me be better today than I was yesterday. And so I think part of transcendence is about that constant inquiry. But I wrote a couple other things down too, because it's about being a relationship builder. As men, we don't see ourselves sometimes as relationship builders. We have this old societal stereotype of the strong, tough, silent, not speaking. And as part of the transcendence, I think, is the letting go of that stereotype. And being able to have that vulnerability and to be able to talk about where we are and how we feel, just like Joseph is talking about with his journaling. It's a place that he gave himself to have that conversation, and even Shervin talked about that. I loved what he said earlier. It says, like, I just want to be a friend to myself. And so that's transcendence, because I'm looking at that in a different way. I'm reading a book right now called The Anatomy of Peace. And that's what it's talking about. We're either at war or at peace with ourselves. And so part of transcendence, I think, is finding that inner peace.
Yes. Oh my goodness. These topics are big and deep. I know anything that we're talking about today, we could talk about, for the next 3 hours. This is big work, you guys. And again, I thank you for taking on the challenge of writing your stories and being vulnerable and busting through the old beliefs and sharing your process. It's going to be life-changing for people to read what's possible. And men or women, we all had an upbringing of thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that if we really wake up to it and practice our day-to-day awareness, we can completely change our lives, no matter where we are or what we're going through or what we're suffering through. And from the very beginning of this project, from its inception, I talked to Diana and Scott, and we knew that it was going to be really important to have an all-male author cast. We talked about the reasons it was going to be important, and we just knew from the beginning, we want all of the voices in all of our projects. And I said this in the other interview, you guys know how you could hear something 100 times, but it's the 101st time that you hear it from the person who specifically said it in the way you needed to hear it. And then boom, your heart opens up and you have a moment, and there's a moment of healing there. And so that's why we need all of you guys in this book, and we need the whole community of voices, all of them. But the question, Joseph, for you first is, I'd like to hear from all of you guys. Why do you think this all-male book, all men authors, why do you think it's important?
Great question, Laura. Uh, Culturally, we're in a difficult time right now. I mean, maybe this has always been true. I don't know,
Mm.
but I feel like we're at a transition point, and there's something really, really powerful about men expressing themselves in a vulnerable way, which right there is transformational. Okay. Um, Secondly, talking about their suffering openly. Um, I mean, one of the things I mentioned in my chapter, I mean, literally the first 6 months, I cried every day, sometimes more than a dozen times a day. And I mean, I spoke to some college buddies about this recently, and some of them said, I haven't cried in 30 years. And it occurs to me that, for me personally, expressing my process in this book to the world is saying out loud, I can be my concept of masculinity from my childhood, which is an Eastern European Hungarian upbringing. Okay, very, very strong, very Catholic, very male, four brothers. That there's more to be experienced as I push into not only my masculinity but more my humanity. We're going in, we're pushing through a lot of old stories, as Shervin said earlier, and I feel like this is an opportunity for these 22 men to share their journey, pushing through their own stories and coming out on the other side in an extraordinarily new place.
Yes. I was waiting for you to say more. Yeah, yes, with an exclamation point. Okay. So James, what do you want to add to that? Why is it important, this all male author cast?
It's funny when you asked the question, I wrote something down and I said, because the models that I had for masculinity weren't working for me anymore. And that's really what it was.
Well, what do you mean by that? I know I can play with you a little bit on this because you've been here with me before, but why? Why weren't they working? How did that show up in your life so that you paused and you knew it wasn't working anymore?
Kind of just look at where our society is going, and this is how I see things. Okay, so as women, and I'm going to use you as the example for all women, right? The reality is that you guys don't need us anymore, not in the traditional model that we had of provider and protector anymore. And so in order for us to redefine masculinity, we had to redefine our role inside that. And so it's about coming into a relationship in a different way. I had to learn how to be in a relationship with my wife in a different way, because I'm not my protective provider role is going away. And so I could lose myself in going, oh my God, I'm not good enough anymore because I can't do all of that. Or I can look at that and go, wait a minute, it has to shift. And so that's why I said my role models of the protector provider weren't working for me anymore. And so as authors and as contributors into this book, I think it was important for us to tell our story in that way, or look at that and go, wait a minute, the models that we had and the examples that we had are broken. and you can stay inside that broken system, or you can grow and find another way to do things, right? And that's the awareness as we grow, because we've realized that something's not working, and we realize that we have choice. I wanted to bring that out. There's this place of understanding I have a choice in how I do that.
It's a pretty intense identity crisis that would throw you into the abyss if you weren't careful about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate all of you talking in the way that you are about this. Shervin, what do you want to add? Why was this book of all male voices important?
I think it goes back to we have a certain aspect or view of how the male should be or behave. and most likely is our father's role model. And that's, either, I mean, our father does the best to whatever they have done, but that might not be good enough for us or make us happy, make us sing, make us joyful. So, and we cannot just say, well, I don't like that, so I don't want to be, for example, male or play my role. So we are having all these authors and talking about how they have moved through the challenges they had, that actually gives option. As James mentioned, we have a choice now. We have to look at all the options, all the ways that we can express ourselves, and find the ways that actually best fit our need and how make us be joyful, to make us to be more productive, more expressive. And I think that's really help us to say there's a choice. You don't have to either love it or hate it. There is a choice that we can do it. And I think, I mean, I personally I don't look at myself at the lens of male or female. It's just whatever comes to my heart, what brings joy to my heart. That's really what attracts me. And for example, there was an example of crying. I mean, really, I feel, being a male and in a story that men don't cry. I mean, I haven't really seen for example, my father cry. He only cried once. He was a doctor, and he got a phone call that his patient died, and he cried. That's the only time I saw him cry. But if I don't cry these days, if I don't cry, say 2 or 3 months, I know something is wrong because I'm not connected. So crying is, for me, is a bliss. So it's different mode. Doesn't mean I go and cry outside or in front of other people. No, it's just basically getting in touch with your own feeling, with your heart. And so that's really important. It's really important to find yourself. Again, we find ourselves with the energy we have and be able to express ourselves and play our role. That's how I look at it. So I think this is a great role model for people to look at and just say, okay, there are different possibilities, and there's nothing wrong with failure. The other thing is, we talk about, man, oh, failure is not good. We have to be strong. No, this is not the case. We fall down, we get up. That's how we get compassion. This is how we deal with the world, because the world is not perfect. Not everybody is going to succeed, is going to do things first time. None of this true. It's just a fantasy. So we have to kind of, through our own experience, we can actually have compassion and love for other people and make this world better.
I just have to repeat what you said. I was writing it down. If you guys saw me like looking down, if I don't cry for 2 or 3 months, I know something is wrong, because that means I'm not connected. Like that one quote, Shervin, might just change the world. Yeah, it means you're not connected. You're not in there feeling the connection to, gosh, life.
Yes.
And
consciousness is changing, and we have to, what we are as human beings is that ability to adapt and evolve. And so this is an evolution point, really, if you look at it. And so it's a major evolution point for humanity,
Yes. Wow. This is no small potatoes stuff we're talking about today either. I know. And sometimes I think I even just lose my breath over it. I have to pause and feel that feeling of how big this is inside of me. That's what this book is for me, you guys. And my other thank you to you today has to do with, yes, you talk about men's work and it's talked about in the book, but this is what women's work also, your book. This book needs to be read by all of the women, and at least you should know that it helped me tremendously to understand that there are many men healers, men of integrity, is how Mark Platten put it, that I can surround myself with. I'm not alone as a woman. There's a balance when you have souls coming together in awareness and healing, and we need all of us. So your book helped me. I needed to understand who I was surrounded with, not just my female friends, but all of my male friends too. So thank you for that.
Ooh, thank you.
And thank you all just for what you do in the world, for being here today to share it with everyone. I want our listeners to understand that, you may have heard something today that one of these gentlemen said, and you got the goosebumps or it sparked something inside of you. So scroll on down because their websites are there, hooked up for you. You can take a little exploration. Our authors are very generously there for you to answer questions and to support and to help you on your journey. So they're all there. Take a little click, explore their amazing offerings in the world. I can't wait for you to read their chapters and the whole book, really. We are going to have a beautiful live stream book launch party coming up on August 5th, 12 to 1 on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. So make sure that you join us for that. And one of the best announcements I get to make is that 10% of our first quarter royalties are going to go to give back to an organization. And Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4 is our second title that gets to give back. I'm so excited about this. Dan Gorbanow is one of our authors in this book, and he has a nonprofit called the Seven Feathers Society that is involved in men's healing programs, holistic healing programs. And we're going to give back to the Seven Feathers Society with the purchases of this book. So just know that every book sale is going to help out and continue the ripple that we started in writing these beautiful chapters. So that means if you're listening to this interview after that date of August 5th, after we've had our party, well, that means you can just get on over to Amazon and grab your copy today. And we would love it if you did. Any last words, any of you? I know that's a big question. James, what do you want to say to our listeners? Maybe a quick little boost.
Sometimes it just takes a conversation. And I think every author in this book invited people to have that conversation. And so because that's how it all starts. And so
love it.
That's what I would say.
I love it. Shervin, how about you? Last words for the listeners?
Well, I would say you matter. We all matter. We make a impact. Positive impact, knowing or not knowing. It's just like imagining a flower. A flower never waits and say, who is appreciating me, who's not appreciating me. Just being there. And many people enjoy it. Many people notice. Don't say anything. Just be there and be yourself. And that's the greatest gift to the universe.
I love that, Shervin. Joseph, you're going to close us out today. What are your words for the viewers?
I guess what I would say is that wherever you are on your journey is completely perfect. Grace is afforded to us all the time, and there are forces at work that are aimed towards your highest learning. Lean into that, trust that, and we're incredibly beautiful souls. Every one of us, extraordinarily beautiful souls.
Thank you, Joseph. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Laura.
Lastly, today, you are welcome. My total pleasure, you guys. Last message from me is I want you to remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave, everyone. See you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Laura.